Some machines will also have a feed lever and a canner handle that will adjust the angle of the table and also how fast the board goes through. Usually you don't need to adjust those at all. The teacher or the instructor has set those up. It's usually as slow as possible and to feed your board through. You also have a directional feed for the rulers, whether forwards or backwards. You shouldn't need to touch that at all. This machine also has a reset switch. You shouldn't need to touch that at all. It looks like a complicated machine with all these handles on it, but the truth is all you need to adjust is the table height and the on and off button. That's all you need to adjust on this machine. You set it for the right height, you turn it on and you're ready to use it. You turn it off and you're done. So all the other things are for maybe a little more detailed work. We also need to set the machine for the right height. So what we're going to do is take a tape measure or a caliper and you're going to measure and set it to whatever the thickest part of your board is. So what I want to do is eyeball it and look down it and see if there's anything that's way out of shape. Check for twisting or cupping, bowing. And I'm going to find the widest or the tallest part of this. So I've got about 1 inch and 5/16. So I'm just going to take my planer and I'm going to adjust it to 1 inch and 5/16. I've got a ruler on this side that I'm going to set that 1 inch and 5/16 to. So I take my height handle that controls the table and I'm going to bring that table down or up until it matches the exact height of my board. Once I have the table set at 1 inch and 5/16, now I'm ready to send my board through. Now theoretically the machine will not cut any material off because this is 1 inch and 5/16 and that's set to 1 inch and 5/16. But what usually happens is there's a little dip or a cup or a bow in the wood, and so some places will touch and other places won't. So the first time I always set it to the exact height, run it through so it makes it completely parallel, flat, and then the next time through I'll actually start taking off a cut in this material. It's also a good rule of thumb to measure the height of your board twice at the highest point and also check the height of your planer twice so that a situation like this doesn't happen. It's really embarrassing and sometimes very expensive if that's not correct. Sometimes your board will be a little twisted and a little cut and it won't go through really easily, and if that's the case you'll turn on the machine, send it through, and it will bind up and it will just sit in one place. If that happens, a lot of times you can follow it with a push stick. You just have to make sure that your push stick is shorter than the original board. Otherwise, if this one's a little taller, then this one's going to get chewed up as it goes through. So you put your push stick in right behind it, and that allows you something to push on to keep your hands away from the machine. Once you have the machine set at the right height, you're ready to send it through. You're going to turn the machine on, you send it through, and what's going to happen is it'll come out the back side of the planer on the table. If you have a short planer, a lot of times that means it's going to fall off on the floor, so you have to go around and grab it as it comes out. Once it comes out the other side, you've picked it up. Remember, don't reach into the machine. If it's having trouble coming out the other side, if it's sticking out all the way and you can grab it and help pull, that's not so bad. But I actually had a student one time on this side of the machine. He was pushing a board in, and instead of using a push stick, he just pushed and pushed and pushed, and his hands pushed right in. And I'm not sure why not. He must have phased out, but he never pulled his hands out, and he just kept pushing them in. And it got so far in that the roller came around and grabbed the front of his fingertips, and as it started to pinch his fingertips in and start to pull them in, he realized, oh, this is probably not smart, and so he ripped his hands out. Now you say rip because he left all his the first 3 fingernails on both hands in the machine, It was really kind of disturbing. He came over to me like Edward Scissorhands and blood was spurting. It was beautiful. Anyway, so when you send your board through, make sure you don't put your hands into the machine. Anyway, I digress. So when it comes out the other side, you're going to grab your board and then you're going to come around. Remember, we set it at the exact right height, and theoretically nothing cut. And so once you have come out the other side, you're going to adjust that to bring the table up just a little bit more. On most machines, that's usually a half turn. Sometimes on the bigger machines, you can do a full turn around, but usually just stick with a half turn every time. You bring your table up a half turn and you send it through again. Bring your table up a half turn, you send it through again. And it's a pretty easy process. Half turn, send it through. Half turn, send it through. Until you get to the desired thickness you want. So you keep watching your gauge, and if I want to take this down to an inch, I keep sending it through, half turn, bring the table up, send it through again, half turn, and I just keep watching this gauge. When it gets to 1 inch, I'm done. I've got a board that's been planed. So we're going to do a demonstration now, and I'm going to actually run it through this process. Make sure you have also turned on your dust collection system, otherwise you get a lot of confetti pouring out on the ground.